We're going to start off with items today, chat, just because that's where the bulk of the changes are going to be in this update. And this is going to be the first update in kind of a multi-patch arc of item changes that we're doing. So, Pon, get us into it.
Yeah, so to take it from the top, OB7 is going to be kind of about us
addressing Mario Kart main, like Baby Toad or some shit, Baby Bowser.
The overall item, the power of items as a whole, as a concept, right? We want to make sure that we have a very solid baseline because in OB8, we're going to start specializing items a lot more aggressively. So things that are supposed to be meant for tank shredding will be really, really, really good at that, but they'll have less base stats to compensate, or they'll have other traits.
OB8, right? So we get, is OB7 next Monday? Is OB7 in like 5 days, 6 days? And then we got 2 weeks until OB8.
Trade-offs. There'll still be items that are meant for like the early game buys that are meant to be pretty good, solid
from the
items that you just kind of pick up because they're good. But when you want the specialization items, you want to make sure that those are really clear. Like you have to be really building into a playstyle or countering a specific thing. Yeah. And if we don't do that.
So OB7 is in 5 days, and there are changes in OB5. But he said the specialty, like they said they're gonna nuke item stats to make sure they don't have good base stats, but they do some specialty thing like shred tanks.
This OB7 kind of reset that we're going to discuss, it's going to create some balance problems that we're going to have with trying to do that. And then OB9 is largely for any feedback that we get over the process of this. We want to make sure that we have a patch dedicated to addressing any concerns that pop up, addressing anything that we might miss in this pass. One that we are being cognizant of, but we might miss is, for example, let's say chin size becomes a very tank-focused anti-tank item, right? Well, now on-hit builds are missing a core piece of their on-hit build. And so we want to make sure that there is an item there to actually represent that. So that's what like OB9, OB8 will be tailoring towards. But to get into like the details of what OB7 is, because that's our first pass, we're essentially going to
I think the next patch on Monday has a new market in it.
Nerf every item by about 10 to 12%, which if every item gets nerfed this way, not that much changes in regards to the relationship of power level of item A to item B, but it does address a core balancing problem that we currently have right now. And to illustrate that, I had this in the dev notes, so I definitely say go read the dev notes as well, so you can kind of like follow through once we have dev notes out. But if you think about like Smite characters, they have their base power and they have their
YouTube
item
goes crazy too,
right?
shit.
And if characters are all base strength, it's just their base stats, their abilities, and the base damage they do, and items don't really contribute anything to that. Well, characters are really defined by like whatever their kit says they can do. There's not much room for expression. There's not much room for trying to counter certain strategies, to try and push your character to do something that they might not baseline be necessarily that good at, right? There's reasons why MOBAs have items. It's for that flexibility. But if you go to the other side of the spectrum where items are, let's say they 10x what your base character can do, right? This is obviously the extreme, but just to illustrate the point, well, now your base character doesn't really contribute meaningfully to how the character is supposed to play, and it also creates weird balance problems. And the main one I want to focus on for this one is, imagine a carry versus a carry scenario. Actually, a carry versus tank scenario, right? A tank is 10x tankier because they built tank items. The carry needs to be able to actually kill that tank. So they build a whole bunch of things to kill tanks. The items for these to be able to do that have to be very, very, very powerful. And the second a carry sees another carry, the act of looking at them immediately causes both of them to explode, right? And that's a very difficult balance problem to solve. It's why, like, for example, if we were to try and resolve that by saying, well, we're going to increase pen over here, we're going to lower a whole bunch of base stats, you don't really address it, and you very quickly create tank metas or meta. Like it's one of those things where like
we're in a tank meta.
You try to address one part of the curve, and it addresses the whole game in a way that is really hard to balance. So the goal,
Oh, sorry. No, I was just gonna say like we were in a situation where it's like we could keep trying to band-aid a solution.
Give it 52 months.
We could go back. We could fix what we saw as the core underlying problem, and then move forward from there.
Yes. And so Smite 2 also has a unique problem set where we have a 7th item slot entirely, right? We move starters over to a 7th item slot, so now you can actually build 6 items. So the amount of just item power from that alone was really high. And when we first started Smite 2, we had kind of a power budget in mind, but that power budget has crept up over time due to really fast balancing passes, just trying to make sure that things felt like they were interesting and engaging. Even just things like, we don't necessarily know at the start of Smite 2, we didn't know how impactful active items would be. How much power budget should you budget for an item that has a 90-second cooldown? Over over the balancing pass, we have a lot better idea of that. And so now the goal here is to kind of reset that baseline. We are still actually higher, basically the adjustment we made, we're still actually higher per item power than we started Smite 2 at. So this isn't like a super crazy reduction, but it's enough of a reduction that we feel like it's going to set our baseline up well for the OB8 and OB9 going forward.
Cool.
I'm
going to.
So they're saying that all these nerfs that we saw yesterday when we got on PTS are just base starting points for the next 2 patches, for the next month after the patch. So a month and a week from now.
I'm going to bring up the laptop because we've got a quick TLDR for you to read. So TLDR, Open Beta 7, focuses on resetting the baseline power level of items. So this is that 10 to 12% kind of lowering of stats on items. For OB8, we're going to concentrate on enhancing item specialization, making their unique effects more impactful.
Yeah, and the side effect of that will be making building more interesting because you are making decisions based on what you see because things have specialized purposes.
Yes.
Not just, I build things with best stats.
Yes.
So 7, focus on resetting the power baseline. We saw a lot of this. We're going to see more of it when they get to it. OB8 will concentrate on enhancing item specialization, making their unique effects more impactful. My guess for this, I literally have no idea. My guess for this is items like Xe will lose a lot of strength and attack speed, but will fuck tanks up because originally that's basically what Totem of Death was, right? When Totem of Death came out early, like early alpha Smite 2, it had horrible stats, but insane fucking pen. And you were like, this item's OP as fuck. Everyone's building it. I assume it's going to be shit like that. It'll probably be like a healing item that has horrible stats, but buffs your healing for healers. There'll probably be a different version of that.
And then for OB9.
And 9, we will dedicate. So this is going to be them fixing any. This is going to be them balancing the balancing. That's what this is. This is to set up for balancing. This is balancing, and this is to balance the balancing.
And any balance hotfixes leading into OB9, we're going to be dedicating our time to tying up the loose ends and addressing any issues that arise from kind of these broad.
Just so we understand, this is very good. As much as it's like hilarious, this is good. This is. They're not going to just like nerf what's already existing. They're basically trying to make things not OP or see what is still OP and then tweak it to make it have a valuable point, a valuable job. But outside of that, you aren't just building it all the time other than when you want it to do that job. So this is like by OB9, we should be in a pretty fucking solid game state.
High-level changes.
Can do this.
Yep. And so I think the thing that, and just so people are clear kind of what we're expecting, so that if we ship this and it's not meeting that expectation, people can kind of know what to look for. Our goal is that in general,
it's a soft reset.
Carry versus tank should feel pretty similar, right? Tanks lost a certain amount of stats from their items that make them tanky. Carriers lost a certain amount of DPS.
So he's saying that with this OB7 patch, what we saw in PTS, the game's probably going to feel the same. Like, everyone is losing similar stats, so it's probably going to feel very similar game-wise.
Expect that to be relatively equivalent. And as you move closer to now the bruiser versus the carry scenario, I'd expect that the bruiser lives slightly longer, and we have some targeted changes to address that. And as you go to carry versus carry, they should probably be the ones that live the most longest out of all the changes. But we wanted to make, we think that there's room for them to go up a little bit. So we expect carry versus carry, the really high burst damage dealers, will have a little bit more breathing room, especially from themselves, as well as bruisers with damage items jumping on them. But we don't want to make it so that tanks just feel like they're unkillable. And so that's an expectation of this change. Another one is that your power level as it relates to the map, you're essentially weaker compared to the map, which we've done a lot of things in recent patches to make that actually so that you're more powerful to the map. The map had less ability to stop you. You could fight objectives more regularly. And we've actually seen that hasn't really, one, that's created some frustrations and some bad metas on its own. And we feel like we've gone too far in that direction. So this also serves as a correction towards that. So the map is now going to be a bit more difficult. It's going to be harder to necessarily tower dive. You have to put more effort into doing these things. But again, the adjustment that we made here overall, it's not going to be so drastic that you log in and suddenly you're unable to kill a fire giant or you're unable to kill a tower. Yeah. It's just a nudge in that direction.
Cool. So, all right, OB7, we said that pretty much every item is going to be seeing a little bit of a reduction, but we wanted to take some time and talk about
something to utilize and having poor performance, or we felt like they could just use a buff that was just
Chains being upcharged, shift your shield, totem of death are not being changed.
So the items not being changed in
we wanted to make sure abilities.
And as Pawn mentioned, we've got a good list of bruiser items.
Gladiator shield costs 100 more. It has 15 less prots. It has no base damage, but its item scaling is higher. Okay. So in reality, worse early, better late. Should be a lot better late. Pridwin, we lost 10 of each prot. It lost 8 cooldown. Increased explosive damage by 20%. So later in the game, it's not even better. This is just kind of matched up. I lied. This isn't even like a buff because all prots got reduced that you're probably building. So this probably keeps it similar damage late game. Same for this. Shield from protections. Yep. Yeah, they're literally scaling everything up because all the prots are going down.
Items here. So
Mystical Mail costs 100 gold less, but it has 100 less health and 10 less prots. Okay.
Pawn, let's go through them and let's start off with Gladiator Shield.
Yeah. You're going to
I don't even hear them read the...
If you go like a...
Runeforge, 100 more gold, 5 less strength. We know that. 50 less health, 2 less regen. We already saw this. Shield of the Phoenix, 50 health down, 10 prots, increase max health. Okay, so that's literally, this is literally just to offset the loss in HP. Voidstone loses 150 HP. Kins lost 10 strength. Summoning Bow lost attack speed. We saw that. Is that all they're showing on here? Oh yeah, this is crazy.
Yeah, so the current next step for Blink is we're going to decrease the cooldown from 210 to 180. We agree.
This is huge. Decrease cooldown on Blink by 30 seconds. So now it is the shortest active in the game. Well, maybe not at total active, but out of the survive or movement actives, lowest cooldown. And then if you successfully basic attack or kill an enemy god within 4 seconds of using Blink, its cooldown is reduced by 30 seconds. So if you blink offensively, you're gonna basic attack somebody. You're gonna have a 150 second cooldown. If you use it defensively, you're gonna have a 180 second cooldown. This is I'm surprised they did this. So there is the possibility that we are just blinking on every 5 seconds as assassins. They're talking about they want to curate more creative builds to play to a playstyle rather than one size fits all. That makes sense. So you're saying like if you're going Shield of the Phoenix, you're gonna be building other health items, or they want you to be like building a health build with this item, not like Shield of the Phoenix works in every build. I like the idea. If they could do it in a month worth of patches, I will be mind blown. The
cooldown is too long. Yeah. And we also want to give it some extra bonus. Will be a good spot for it to be.
Or is it?
So actually, I think the way I've implemented it, which we should just go update the wording, is on damage. On damage or kill.
Cool. Okay.
And the kill clause is really there for like the cases where like the tower sniped it from you.
Okay, so this isn't basic attack or kill. It's basically if you do any damage to a god or they die around you, you get 30 seconds off.
Right. Yeah. Like technically, to get a kill, you're gonna have to hit with an ability or
a few abilities. His Arcane 1 and Arcane 2 gonna be seeing.
So his 1 got buffed by 30 base and 2% scaling. Merlin. His 2 got buffed by 15 base and 10% scaling. This is in Arcane stance, Void stance. Fire 1 got buffed by 6 per tick. I don't know how many times this ticks. So it's probably like a lot higher base than it seems, and 2% scaling, which is probably like 10 or 20% scaling. Blizzard 2, for our Frost 2, increase the deployment range of this ability.
Increase in damage.
Actually, just top end fight warping down.
Okay, Aladdin went from the coolest, most OP god in the history of the game to I didn't want to play him. He felt like shit. So the 1 is okay. So they nerf scaling, but upped base by a fuck ton. They are cooking in Smite 2, and everyone who's playing the game knows it. And you are right. They fucked up early, which is why the player base got cooked. So this is a higher base damage on the 1, but massively reduced scaling. The 2, increased strength scaling, increased dash damage by 20, decrease the punch, which is the secondary proc of the 2, by 8 per punch, which is a lot because I think it punches like 8 times. The 3, increased strength scaling, Increase base damage by 40. Decrease the bonus damage. Okay, so they're making his base kit do more, but the enhanced version of it, the genie version of it, do a lot less. A lot less. Into the lamp now deals 320 plus 65% int plus 50% strength to the target. This damage cannot bring them below the health. Hold on, it did 0 damage before, right? Because you just took him in. So it does something if someone uses beads. Which means his ult is gonna hit hard as fuck. Yo, someone tell King Shadow to sub. Decrease the Aladdin health restore from 60% of his health to 50% of his health. Increase enemy health restore from 60-40 to 50. So it's an even health. You basically go in a pure 1v1. Increase enemy cooldown reduction 50 to 40 to 50. Yeah, so you basically they made his ult less I'm gonna automatically win a 1v1 versus you, and more if you beats it, I'm fucking you up, and if you don't, we're gonna have a true 1v1. It does damage even if they beats? No, his ult doesn't do damage. That's what I thought. His ult does nothing if you beats it, and they're making it so now it deals damage if you beats it, which is big because a lot of the time you want to use this. Wait, actually, it doesn't proc item effects either because it doesn't want them coming in with dots. That's weird. So if you're ulting them at high health, they take damage, but if they're low at all, they don't take damage, whether they eat it or beats it. That is weird. It's also really strange it doesn't trigger item effects.
Down a little bit, given because why she is.
Kate getting a buff, 20 base, 5% scaling. Magic shield is 50%, 50 higher at max. Increase the damage on the ult by, I can't even see it, by 30 base and 5% scaling. Bacchus chug, lower cooldown, increase protection scaling. Increase base damage on belly flop by 40. Bacchus now applies a longer duration slow if targets were successfully knocked up. This means Bacchus should be slowing people for 2 seconds after they land.
2 seconds
on the ability.
Yep. For the path.
This is crazy. So the efficiency mod on Vulcan now gives you 25 intellect and 20% CDR. This is on passive proc, which procs when you hit a god. And the ultimate, now if you take seismic mod, which is a third set of mods, the tremble effect knocks up. So you could potentially use your own ult for setup for yourself. You have set up peel, set up another way for Wheelix to ult off of your kit.
The pieces that weren't really being utilized weren't getting that much effectiveness.
They buffed the base of Vulcan's. I feel like Vulcan is so good late game and shit early, but shit early because of items. All right. Kabrakin now Shadow Zone passive now provides Kabrakin an additional 1% damage mitigation for every 100 protections from items. So he gets an additional like 4% damage mitigation. Maybe a little higher if you're a support. This is kind of awkward though, because you have to hit the 100 from items. So that means if you're like right on the line of hitting 300, you're gonna force those prods. Well, you're not though. You're like, I don't know, borderline 200. You're gonna force it. The 2 enhanced refraction shield now also restores 1% max health. What? Okay.
That one's actually doing.
Rama's 3 now gains 15 more damage, bonus damage. Astral Barrage on the ults is up by 5. Oh, the base is higher. The base damage, the rank 1 damage is a lot higher. Damn.
Astral Barrage.
Actually kind of big.
Visually, it looks correct.
Visually.
Pele, remove the dash when you. Holy fuck! This is OP as fuck. They gave Pele 2, Princess Mari's 3, so you can control where you're going, because the enhanced 2, whatever, the enhanced magma rush when your 3 was up felt weird. So now they just took away the 3 needing to be up, it seems like, and you just always get a burst of movement from eruption. Pele's about to be sick. Pele's about to be potentially sick. Adjusted the pacing of the animations. The eruption damage area appears as she lands. That's honestly a really good change, I think. Like a really, really good change. The Morrigan passive. The dot damage ability has changed from basic attack damage to ability dot damage. How the fuck does that work? So when you hit an ability, you put a dot on them instead of having to hit your third auto from the chain? It's her auto attacks? Oh, so they can't crit. Oh. The damage is literally just ability damage. So it'll proc items or like Soul Reaver and stuff, but it won't proc crit and act like an auto attack. Interesting. Deadly Aspects, increase damage by 15. Dark Omen, the 2, increase minion damage. Oh, decrease minion damage. Increase initial damage scaling by 10. Increase mark scaling by 10%. Okay.
Decreasing the attack speed bonus.
Passive, decrease attack speed bonus by 5%. 1, fix an issue. 3, decrease base damage, 150. Okay, so early game base damage is lower, but late game is the same. Decrease until. Why are we decreasing intelligence scaling? Nobody even goes int. These are weird. I don't think this is good enough for like these are terrible nerfs in my mind. Awilix didn't hold on. Didn't they just make this 80% in the last patch? The fuck? Mordred nerf, decrease ability cooldown reduction while Blood Rage is active from one. Oh, they nerfed the 2 aspect. Increase cooldown by what? 2 early, same late.
He didn't have a.
Oh, bro! I read it pierces gods, and I instantly thought so I can stun more than one god. Nah, you can do damage to more than one god, but you're only stunning the first god it hits. Odin gains a stack of his passive upon casting his ultimate. Now also provides 8 intelligence in addition to 5 strength per stack when killing an enemy god inside the ring. Does he have a cap? Does Odin have a cap on his passive stacks in Smite 2? So basically, if you ult, you get a stack, and also if someone dies, then you get a stack. 10 stacks is max, which is 50 strength, 80 int.
Way to gain access to it. Now when he ults,
balance that I've got going on. I'm going to bring us back to cams while I load in game, and you all can maybe.
You need kind of a certain amount of power to be able to even end the game in the first place. Even if the entire enemy team is down and you have a minion wave of the Phoenix, it takes a certain amount of time to kill the Phoenix. It takes a certain amount of time to kill the Titan. You just need that baseline power. And because you're delaying that a little bit because now you don't get as many stats, the game length should increase. I have been surprised in the past, right? Like one aspect is tanks are going to be less effective at potentially walling you from sieging a base. That could be a consequence of this. It also could be that tanks have a harder time actually being in the front line that takes the Phoenix shots for the team, which might mean that defenders have more. Didn't temper Obsidian Shard was to make sure that they still felt like they could deal damage. It may be that we need to give them more intelligence. And
I mean, all this is pointless. Options. They've already said what they're looking to do.
At when we were talking about the OB8 stuff.
This is Pele. I want to see what Pele looks like.
The eruption. And you see she's got that little bit of a speed
That's
boost.
nice, yeah.
And if you just kind of like WASD as you're doing it.
So it's not part of the 3 anymore. It looked very similar to live.
She doesn't have to go anywhere. If you do cooldown,
she doesn't have to move. It's because he was just walking forward.
All right, well, I got it one more time. So you said just like WASD around?
Yeah.
Okay, so you can that's sick. You can control it. Yeah, that's sick. That's what I thought it was.
So like you can actually
just went forward. I was like,
you don't have to move anywhere. You can WASD. You can.
That's a massive penalty. So
quality of life change. Her ability to juke backwards is more limited.
Plus, it's a noob friendly change because noobs don't know how to use the 3 and 2 at the same time.
That's why I talk about she has how well it felt on Bari. It just feels really easy, intuitive to control.
Sweet. And
we saw this on PTS. On PTS, if your inventory's full and you pick something up, you drop one of these on the ground.
Speaking of another cool piece of tech, something that I didn't even know was in the update, but
something on the ground to pick up the dagger.
Hop into somebody's stream last night, and I noticed, and I was like, "Wait, is this coming in the next update?"
It was me, I think. It was me.
Yeah, we should have probably talked about this on Monday.
Yeah, I know, but it's
we're
all
going to talk about it now.
Yeah. So, we've gotten a lot of feedback just about how apparent and how much stress is on the consumable slot in the jungle. So,
yes.
As you can see, I've got a couple potions purchased, and I just killed the Cyclops camp. But I want this ward. I don't want both potions, so I'm just going to pick this up. Oh, what's this?
This is a massive quality of life change because there are so many times I do this back camp, the one that pings where everybody is, and I can't pick it up to ping where everybody is because I have 2 slots filled, especially early game. So now you could drop your shit, pop it, pick your shit back up.
going on?
The mana potion you can now drop. So we basically wanted some way for while you're out in the jungle. It feels really bad to like just drop, like to consume your potion for no reason. So we felt like this swap solution worked really well. It just allows you to pick what you want, you drop it on the ground. Anyone on your team can pick it up too. So you can really actually do some things like, hey, mid laner, I just dropped a multi-pot because I don't need it anymore. I'm going to go buy this and ward somewhere. You can share it with them. You can also do things like, and this is what I generally do because when I'm jungling, this is what generally happens is I pick up I buy like health potion, multi-potion. I then get the Cyclops award. I go ward somewhere aggressively I want to. And as I'm circling back to go kill like the back harpies or go across the lane behind the tower, I will re-pick up my potion.
That's cool.
Yeah. And this also sets up some nice tech for us because we had some early versions of wanting like potentially these to go back to like a base location so that anything that dropped on the map people from your team could easily pick up. But we needed some generic drop for these because not everything was going to have a 3D model made for this like the Cyclops word were. And so this is like a generic thing. So as you swap different stuff, if it has a model, we'll use it. If it doesn't have a model, it will do that.
Yeah, they're going to have to give them actual models.
We just think this is a nice quality of life improvement.
So like
it doesn't solve every problem, but incremental steps to improve things. And it just felt good.
A couple questions. Does it automatically swaps with your slot 2?
So it will try slot 2 first. Then it will try slot 1 if you have something that's not droppable. And things that are not droppable are chalices, 3K potions, and the obsidian dagger.
Okay.
Because we were worried that would actually create kind of a more like, tank, spend your 3K gold on another power potion for me and drop it, right? Or obsidian dagger is really meant to be someone picks it up and holds onto it, and if you die, you drop it, right? Like, so some of these we have limited, but other ones you can totally drop.
And can enemies pick up these things that we drop, or is it just your own team?
Enemies cannot pick it up, just your own team.
And if you don't have something else, like, do you have to pick something else up to drop something? Can I just say, I just want to drop this potion for somebody?
No, you have to have a full inventory slot, and you have to be able to swap it. We know that there's some things about this that like it would actually be just cool to just be able to drop something for your team, or it'd be cool
like this
when
change.
this times out and runs out, it's gonna just destroy.
Pretty random that they did it, but it's a really good quality of life change.
Potion thing.
Hello.
I know these past couple shows have been largely just us, giving updates to the community. So maybe for the Friday show, we'll leave it a little bit more open for
play the carry role.
I saw a good one that passed, but Pong, do you want to give just a little bit? You don't have to go into details, but just like overall thought process on what the OB8 pass on items is going to look like in terms of specialization and how we're going forward.
Yeah, so the goal is to look at items and kind of divide them into 2 camps. These are your staple items that feel like
disappointed. No,
they're
actually
okay with being largely
basically they're telling us that this patch hitting Monday is the starting point of what they want Smite 2 to be balanced and item-wise. And then we get a patch in 2 weeks from then, which is going to add on to that and start to create it and basically do it. And then the patch after that is going to fix anything that's wrong, is their goal with items.
Focused with a passive that provides some utility, but it's not really the defining thing, right? Jotuns, I think, is a really good example of this item where it serves its role really well. It's a decent strength item. It has a lot of cooldown reduction. This feels like the game, as much as it would feel potentially bad to have like every single assassin in the entire game buying Jotuns, you still have 5 other items to flex with, and the game state would actually probably feel pretty good for those assassins, right? Same with like Hydras is another example of like those kind of staple items that like they're your like 1, 2, 3 item buys that depending on your character, you're basically saying like, I'm going to start playing the game this way with this character. The second set of items are your counter pick or specialization or like essentially reward items. So Deathbringer was an example of this one, right?
Luxury.
Like if you can just throw a Deathbringer into any build and it just feels like a strong DPS increase and you haven't built really to support it,
there's no world where pretending like Smite 2 isn't infinitely better than Smite 1. Infinitely better. We are 4 months into this game? No, not even. We're 3 months into this game being publicly played, free to play. 3 months and the game is infinitely better already. They haven't even started. They're just now getting ready to go through and start making items what they want them to be, how they want them to be in the future. 3 months.
Probably a problem. Same with Rada Tahuti, right? That item needs to be that like if you just throw it at the end of a build where you bought all the lowest intelligence items and it was still like the best buy you could have made, that's the thing that we want to avoid. Similarly, things like chin size right now, and we've basically gone back and forth with the Smite 2. It straddles the line between being your best on-hit option all the time, as well as being a anti-tank thing that isn't as good as anti-tank, but if we go one direction, well, then the people who are using it for damage feel bad. We want to pick a lane for chins to go in, and right now we'd be leaning on that being the anti-tank item, especially the high health build item. Cool. But that would mean that we must fill that gap with a item that...
What I hear a lot without them saying it is, well, someone told me that they basically want builds to be tailored specialty builds, right? If you're a tank, you might go a health build and items that scale around health. You might go a defense build and items that scale around defense, but you're not going to get both. Kind of sounds like they want to do the same thing on the other side, where like, oh, they're going an HP build, I want to go a counter build to that, so I'm going an anti-HP auto attack build or mage build or some shit. If they get to a point where they're like that and you still have variety, I will be fucking mind blown.
That is for strength on hit users that are looking to deal damage to other squishies.
Cool.
Right? So when we're looking at these items, we want to make sure items feel specialized. The reward items feel like they're being built to really pay off for you building a particular style. And the items that you're building to counter specific stuff feels like it's useful, but we don't want to create gaps in this process, right? So OB8 right now is shaping up to be a really, really, really big patch internally. We'll see where we actually get to when we decide to branch OB8, how far we actually got into this process. We probably still have like at least 1 to 1.5 more meetings before we can really actually dive in and implement all this. So we have a lot of work ahead of us there, which is why we know that like OB8 and OB9, that's why we're putting OB9 on there, is because we have a lot of work to do there. But that's kind of the vein of what we're doing with this pass. We want to make sure that items don't feel like they're just no-brainer. I buy this every game. Because while Jotuns, sure, you build at the first of every single game you play with Assassin, that's fine if the next 5 items you build are really interesting and you change based on how the game goes. But if all 6 of your items are locked to the same thing because you feel like you must build these items because they're the most efficient and nothing about the game change is causing you to change that, that's the problem we want to resolve.
Thank you guys for the subs, Blackbeard, RBL. Thank you.
Duskbreaker asks, as a new player, there will need to be more guides towards items with these changes. I know that God Builder exists, but I would require help knowing what and when. It's a bit overwhelming to start. So I agree that item building is challenging in
Brother, if they do this with items, Smite Source is about to fucking have so much value. Holy shit.
any MOBA.
I'm going to be able to do so much more
in Smite 2 right now, because other than auto build, we don't really have any guidance for how to go towards actually learning how to build, right? Some games do the thing where they show you, like, here's 3 items and you pick which one you think is best for your current situation. You know, there's a lot of things. We really think that the God Builder system, when that rolls out, will be a huge help for this. I would say, and I'll talk more about that in a second. My quick aside is that for right now, a lot of our content creators are doing amazing work coming up with like build guides for every update. I know Inbound has a Google sheet that just has like, this is my recommended build for each god, and it's like, here's the 6 items in a row, and just you build those 6 items in a row, and you're gonna do okay, right? And our goal for the God Builder function is basically like, you will be able to make a build that says, here's my recommended final build, my 6 items in a row, and then here are other categories of things with some notes saying like, hey, if you want to play more of an on-hit style, build this instead, or
Smite Source.
Or if you're against, healers, build this, or it's
Smite Source.
Supposed to let people create kind of like almost mini guides in game.
Here's the problem that they are failing to acknowledge with the in-game shit that I instantly saw in Deadlock. They're implementing Deadlock's build sharing system. There is no fucking player that is going to take the 4 hours to make a build and then keep it up to date after patches. It's not, they will always break down and become obsolete. Always. Outside of that, why the fuck would high-level players or people spending hours and hours making these guides want to put it into the game instead of putting it somewhere where they can make money off of it or get views off of it, like a YouTube video, make money? Like, It literally is ignorant for the high-level players to put build guides in the game unless high-res is going to promote you or pay you. It makes no sense. You will literally be like trying to essentially, I think it's kind of like what I see big companies do and big orgs do, where they like bring in the little guy because they want exposure. If you think this like you're gonna get exposure from making these builds, you're gonna end up spending so much more time doing builds than playing the game, and your builds are just gonna be obsolete after X amount of time, and it's gonna be bad.
You can then access to learn how to build and maybe how you might want to change your builds. And you can either make your own or you can look at ones that are popular.
I think the goal of the builder is like, I don't know, like inbound support build, and you'll pull it up in game and it'll be like a guide in game. That's what Deadlock was. It was like, here's your items, here's your alternative items. You had write-ups like build this here, focus on this. And like in Deadlock, it literally fell apart in like the first month. In the first month, there was like 10,000 fucking builds. There were people copying other people's names. So like looking up builds is a pain. Like it was, we'll see. But I think this is bot status shit. Like just give us access to an API so we can make an app that pops up for people and let us do it our fucking selves instead of expecting everyone. Like there's no world I'm gonna like stop doing Smite Source and I'm gonna put my builds in the game. Like, why the fuck would I do that? It makes no sense.
In the community. And then they'll be filtered by, what aspect they're for and what god they're for and what role they're for and what mode they're for and all that kind of stuff. Yeah. So this system...
The problem is, like, you're like, it'll help the new player experience. Yes, but it essentially uses your skilled or knowledgeable players. They're just using them. It's just a big company using them. That's all this is. If it's you making your own builds and I'm wrong, dope. But I'm pretty sure they basically said they wanted to do Deadlock system originally. So maybe that has changed. If it's just you go in and put in your own build, but like literally they're saying you're going to be able to like have little write-ups and guides. That's not something you would do as a player for yourself. That would be something you'd expect a high-level player to do for you. And then at that point, why are you doing that as a high-level player instead of making YouTube videos, making TikToks, why are you spending hours on in-game Smite content that you get no rewards for? So they need better find some reward system, or they better hope the players are dumb as fuck and go in and make these guides thinking they're doing something cool.
I think will help a lot with people being able to understand building, and it will be a really big step forward. It won't be in OB7 though, so for OB7 I would recommend look at Inbound's Google Sheet, or Weekend has a website called Smite Source, something like that. Yeah. There's a couple different websites out there that do have pretty decent builds, but yeah.
Cool. I think I need to pick one. Let's see. Dun, 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 dun.
What's up, Berserk?
I know we talked about this. Oh, nice. Cool.
I really just hope that they don't do the Deadlock system. I thought Deadlock's build sharing was probably the most ass thing in the world. When on initial launch, I was like, this could be cool. And literally a month later, I was like, this is dog shit. So I really hope they don't do it like Deadlock and they have some actual good idea. Because if they don't, I'm going to be real sad.